Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Here today showing you how to replace the valve cover gasket on a 2015 Honda Accord. This has the Earth Dreams engine. This is a K24 W something, probably a W7 if I had to guess. This should work for pretty much any of these K series. This is 2012 through 2017, but this K series is found in the Honda CR-Vs, the Honda Civics, SI. I mean, maybe not this exact cylinder head, but you know, it should be really similar. Also found in the Acura ILX, the Acura TLX, and I believe I already said the CR-V. Probably in the Honda Odyssey in some areas as well, but most of these K series are pretty similar. This will actually be one of the first ones that I've actually done a valve cover gasket on, but I mean, I've done valve cover gaskets on many cars, K series included. So as usual, I try not to remove anything I don't need to, or I try to keep things as intact as possible. So I got a new valve cover gasket over here, so let's just get right into it. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is remove this plastic cover. There's a hose, that evap hose that comes alongside of it. You can just take it out of the holders it's in, and then this should just pull up and lift off like so. Next thing I'm going to do is remove this here breather hose. Just get a pair of pliers, move the hose back. Might need to twist it around some to get it loose, like so. Just take that guy off. You can just kind of just let it sit to the side, it's fine. The next thing I'm going to do is take off this here cover. It looks like it's held on by a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10mm screws. They all appear the same size, so you shouldn't have to worry about which one goes where. This would just lift off like so. Set this down to the side. The next thing you want to do is to remove the coil packs. You can simply just squeeze the tabs that are on them and pull them off. Although it looks like it's a little bit difficult to do so. Might be easier to kind of like lift this wiring harness out of the way, or work your way this way if you want. This right here is going to have to get moved out of the way. So I'm going to start on this side by just squeezing the coil pack, taking it off like this. So as you're working your way this way with this coil harness, these things are kind of hard to take off. Really all you do is just squeeze the tabs down here and pull them off. So just do your best to get them off. Right here though, you can see that this wiring harness is not going to move because it's clipped on right here. There's just a little tab right here that you can push and lift this up out of the way, and you can go on ahead and remove this last connector as well. Just kind of leave that to the side. Now there is this harness right here that comes down to the alternator. You probably can get away with just loosening this up right here out of this guy, and this will probably move, but you can see this is kind of tight, and if we have to try and lift the valve cover up, it's probably not going to come off. So what I'm actually going to do is to go on ahead and probably loosen these connections here. But before you do this, this is going to have battery power, so you want to make sure that you disconnect the battery first, which is just over on the other side. Let me show you. Just right there, disconnect the positive battery terminal, which more than likely is going to be a 10mm nut. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off first, and then I'm going to mess with the alternator wiring. So I'm going to just disconnect this here and unplug it. And there's a bracket right here that's holding this whole deal on. It's just held on by one 10mm. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this bracket up. I'm going to loosen and remove this screw. That way all of this wiring will be mostly free. There is a wire that goes down to the AC compressor. You might not have to disconnect that one. I'll show you here. I'll let you know here in a minute. Then if you just pull this cap up, there'll be a nut under here that you can take off. It looks like it's going to be a 12 millimeter, so let me get a 12 and we'll get that off. And you can see that gave us a lot more freedom here. Alright, just so, because I don't like fighting, this did give us some freedom. You probably can move it around and get it around, but there is only one more wire that goes down a little bit farther to the AC compressor. It is this very similar clip to this guy. You just pinch it and take it off. So I'm going to go on ahead and follow this wire down. I'm going to loosen up this 10 millimeter screw right here that I'm pointing to. See that right there? I'm going to loosen up that screw, and then just down there you can see the blue connector down there. That will be the connector that I removed. You can see you just pinch it and take it off, and should be good to go. So let me see if I can just show you guys and take it off. Yep. Just unplugged it like that, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to loosen up this 10 millimeter screw right here and get this wiring harness completely out of the way. Alright, so got this wiring harness completely loose now. And you can tell this wiring harness, this whole deal is just really the only thing holding it back is just being connected to a lot of things. So you can see right here, if you yank on this too much, you're going to rip out that green connector. So we'll go on ahead and disconnect that green connector back there, which is just a matter of pinching it, pulling it out. And if you follow this along the back over here, also there are other connectors that are going to be in the way. This connector, this one right here that runs around the back, shouldn't have to worry about that one, but this one right here that goes connected right here to this gray connector, you also have to pinch it and remove that. And then when that is loose, I believe this whole thing should, yeah, you should be able to take it off. So that little tab right here you saw, it literally just slides into the valve cover, so you can just slide it this way out of the valve cover and it'll come loose. Disconnect the gray connector, disconnect the green connector in the back, and all of this should be able to move out of your way. The only other thing that will be holding you up is the O2 sensor here. So this guy, I think, should just come unclipped out of there. Yeah, let me get that off and show you guys how it comes off. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and remove the green connector back here. And the gray connector. And you can just tuck all this back behind the strut bar and out of the way. So the only thing left I can see connecting to the valve cover is this here little hose right here. Just get a clamp or some pliers, take it out, and then we'll go on ahead and remove the coil packs after that. Coil packs are held on by just a 10 millimeter screws, so go on ahead and remove all of the coil packs. You can just lift them straight out of place. Now it doesn't matter where you put them back at, they're all the same coil pack, so don't worry if you mix them up. If you would like to number them, you can number them if you'd like and put them back wherever you want. That would be a good time to change the spark plugs if you haven't. If your car has 100,000 miles around, or 95 to 100,000 miles, you should definitely replace your spark plugs now. Alright, now we're ready to take the valve cover off. And you notice around the perimeter of the valve cover there's going to be these silver screws. There's 4 right here that I'm pointing at. I believe there are 10 total screws. So these 4 here, I believe this little screw nut here with a little pedestal on top, and then I can't really show you, but around the back side there will be more screws like this. So go on ahead and just remove all of those screws, and then the valve cover should be free to come off. So let's go on ahead and get it off. Alright, I got all of these screws out, and I'm now noticing that if I go to lift this up, we're still going to run into some wiring issues over here. So if you look at the very back here, you'll see just in the back right there, that little green tab. Now what you want to do is to just you can probably get a flathead and push that very top piece down, excuse me, just push this piece down, and that should force some of it out. And then if you can get underneath it with a pick, then you can go on ahead and just push this wiring harness completely out. You can see it's already wanting to come out mostly, and I might be able to just pry it out of there, but that's how you can get that one out. However, there is this other one on the other side over here. Let me zoom out so you can see. Right where this green zip tie is. Now you can do one of two things here if you want. If you want to go ahead and cut that zip tie and take those wires out of the little clip, that will work. However, if you want to try to retain that clip, what I suggest you do, there are 2 wiring connections over here on the side. I'm sorry the camera's not really focusing on what I'm looking at here. There's these 2 connections here on the side. You would have to just press this tab right here and pull this out, and press this tab right here and pull this one out. What that's going to allow you to do is to lift up the valve cover a little bit, and then you'll want to pretty much flip the valve cover kind of upside down, or as best as you can, in order to get at the other clip to get that wiring connection out. It'll be the exact same type as this one. You just can't see it right now because it's on the bottom. So if you kind of maneuver the valve cover around, you might be able to get it out. So I'll leave that to you however you want to take it off. Here you can see that tiny little connector that I told you about earlier that's on the bottom side. You can just squeeze this together and that'll come out. And you can go ahead and remove the valve cover and we can get to work on it. Alright, now that everything is off, you want to go on ahead, and there's going to be oil around the whole perimeter, so you want to make sure that you get the just wipe off whatever oil and dirt there is, just so that your new gasket has something clean to go down onto. I will also say that, let me show you actually because it'll be easier. When you go to put this new valve cover back on, you are going to need some RTV. You can see here there is old silicone here, so you want to make sure you just kind of peel that back some and get the old stuff out of the way, so that way you can put on some new RTV, you want to put it on the area where the front timing cover meets the cylinder head here. So right here will be some, also in the back there, and then you also want to put some here where the valve cover goes up onto this hump, as well on the back side over there. There is going to be silicone back there, so make sure you get all the old stuff off. And you can see how nasty it is back there because this thing's been leaking. So just wipe all this off and get it as clean as you can. Then we can go on ahead and get the new valve cover gasket installed. So here's the valve cover. I wiped off most of the oil off of it. Now when you buy a valve cover gasket for these cars, most modern cars with these plastic valve covers, unfortunately some of them you can't replace the tube seals on. You can see these tube seals are here. They're molded into this plastic. They're not designed to be taken out and replaced. This is the same on, let's say, like a 2003, 2004, the old VQ Maximas, where if you wanted to replace these tube seals, you'd actually have to buy a whole nother valve cover, just a brand new valve cover, because it'll come with new seals. Now, fortunately enough for us, when I pulled out all of the coil packs, none of them had oil on them. There's nothing leaking down. So I'm going to go ahead and say that these are still good. They're still sealing. And I'm just going to be replacing the valve cover gasket itself. So if you want to get these tube seals replaced, unfortunately, you're going to have to buy another valve cover. My kit does come with a new one of these gaskets right here. This is for the PCV system. So I will be replacing this little piece. So I'm definitely going to put a new one of those in. But as far as the tube seals are concerned, like I said, you can either get a new valve cover or just leave it how it is, especially if it doesn't have any oil on the coil packs. Then I wouldn't worry about it at all. So this is a new gasket here. I'm going to place into this little valley. Make sure that's seated well in there. And then, like I said, I can show you the coil packs. They are completely 100% dry, so I'm not worried about these, not sealing. So next thing you'll want to do is just to grab your valve cover gasket and just place it into the valve cover here. And we'll first figure out which direction this thing goes. I think this goes like so. You'll just want to press it in completely. Sorry, I'm not really showing you what I'm doing, but just make sure you get it seated completely. So that way when you go to put it on, it doesn't slip out of place. This valve cover gasket cost me, I believe, $40, so not too bad. There is an option to only buy just the valve cover, which is a little bit cheaper, so if you wanted to do that, you can also do that. I just got this at my local parts store. I don't know the part number of it, so you just have to go to the parts store and see what it is they tell you. But there you go, that all went in pretty easily. Alright, so as I said earlier, you want to make sure you put on some RTV before you go on ahead and put this on. Put it on all the seams where you don't need to use a lot, just a little bit, on the seams where the timing cover crosses to the cylinder head. Just get a good amount on there. And then on these humps where they go up, I usually like to put, probably a little bit more than I should, but I just don't want to, I make sure I don't want it leaking again, so I'll put a little bit there, and then there needs to be some up here as well. And then same on the back side. Just like so. Then you can go on ahead and set the valve cover back down again. Do be careful that it doesn't that the gasket doesn't, dislodge itself. Make sure it's completely on, and then we can go on ahead and tighten it down. Just take your time. just like so. We can worry about the wiring and stuff after we're done torquing this stuff down. Okay, so I'm gonna put all the screws back in. I'm just gonna hand tighten them. Now, I don't know the exact torque specs of this. I did call the Honda dealership and I asked for a torque spec, but he didn't even look them up, to be honest. All he did was run out to his techs and ask them how they tighten them. And they tighten them pretty much just like how I would. They just tighten them until they're hand tight with the wrench. Then they went another quarter turn maybe, and that was tight to them. So I'm not going to tell you the torque specs because I don't know exactly, and being that this is a plastic valve cover, you don't want to torque it too much because you could actually crack the valve cover. So he's saying it's equivalent to about 8 foot-pounds, but disclaimer, please don't follow that. Just do what you feel is right to you, or look it up on Google or something like that. I tried to search on Google, but I couldn't really find anything for this particular engine. So I'm just going to do what feels right to me. But now that you got it on, go on ahead and just start all these guys by hand, and then we go on ahead and tighten them up. Remember that the one with the little nub goes on the far right on the top. Got all those tightened. They do have a pretty positive like stop, you know, when they get to where they're probably supposed to be, they do pretty much just stop. So that's probably a good point to stop. But got all those tightened up now. So basically we're just putting everything back together. I'm going to start with the wiring harness on this side by clipping in the small little tab. Actually, I'm going to start with this hose that I took off, since that was the last thing I took off. Go ahead and reconnect that here and use your pliers. Put this back on like so. Then go on ahead and fold this wiring harness back down. Kind of get it from under here. And go on ahead and clip in that connector that was on the very back. The very back here in the corner, as well as this green, all the green connectors, they snap back down into the valve cover like they were, and then just reconnect all the connections. The ones on the side. Like so. The gray connector over here. Don't forget to slide this whole thing. There we go. Gray connector goes in on this side. Then I'm going to go on ahead and just install the coil packs now, since they're just right here. Remember, they're just held on by 10mm screws. Like so. And go on ahead and tighten all these up. And then go on ahead and connect all the connectors back. Do make sure that you snap this wiring harness down into place after you're done here. Just like that. Make sure it's in, because this wiring harness needs to make sure it gets lined up when you put the small cover back on. So do your best to try and get it in place. Now the next thing you'll need to do is to reconnect the alternator wiring down here and the AC compressor, which is just down on the bottom. If you remember, down here we can do this. So go on ahead and do that, and don't forget to reattach the brackets as well. All right, last thing to connect up would be the O2 sensor. We can go on ahead and reattach this breather hose over here back to the valve cover. Get that guy all the way on. Got to get the pliers so you can get the hose clamp out of the way. Just like so. Now the only thing left to put on would be the cover that goes over top, and then this other plastic cover over here. So I'll get this cover first. And like I said, make sure that this stuff is lined up here as good as it can be. And don't forget to connect your positive battery terminal, which I'll just go ahead and do now. Almost forgot to have you pop this cover back on. It just pops right into place. Just like so, and then you put the little hose back in how they were. Just like that. And that'll pretty much be all there is to it. It's a pretty straightforward job. You could probably do this job in about an hour if you've never done this before. If you've done some before, you have some mechanical experience, then it'll probably take you less than an hour. But go on ahead and drop a like down below. Drop me a comment if you have any questions on this. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching the videos. Do share it with your friend. Hit the subscribe button on the way out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.